Today we're going to talk about the CloudCard photo downloader, and we're going to take a bit more of a deep dive into configuring and installing and really kind of customizing the CloudCard photo downloader. So if you watched the last video, you can kind of remember where we left off. We had just kind of done a fast installation of the CloudCard photo downloader where all we set was our access token, and we ran it while there were a few photos that needed to be downloaded. We saw those photos get created in the downloaded photos folder. We saw a summary file get created in the summary folder, and that's great. If you that might work for some people. That will continually run for every 10 minutes. But let's say that you want to customize this a little bit more. Well, that's what we're here to kind of help you with. Okay, so let's talk through kind of front to back, ideally, what we need to do and what some of the things to watch out for while we're installing and configuring the downloader. So first off, one of the things that you have to make sure that you have is you have to make sure you have downloaded photos. We didn't really talk about that in the last one. We mentioned it briefly, but let's say I go into CloudCard and I've got a couple of photos that are pending. And now these statuses up here kind of represent roughly represent the various statuses within CloudCard for photos. So these are pending photos. I can go ahead and select these and just approve both of them. Okay, now when I approve them, that moves them over to approved. And that's one of the first decisions that you have to make is whether or not or how you want to approve and download photos. Okay, now let's say that you just want to do what I just did, approve them on the pending page, and then immediately have them downloaded. Okay, then you're going to want to grab photos that are approved. Okay, however, some people like more of a two-step process where after approving the photos, they end up on this page, and there's the possibilities for sort of a supervisor to look over, or just, the same person to double check to make sure that all the photos that are on the approved, tab are actually good and ready to be downloaded, and then they would click the download photos button. Now, let me talk about this button very briefly, okay? This button can do one of two things, all right? And in fact, I'm going to go ahead and reconfigure, just make a quick change so I can show you what I'm talking about. So the default configuration for CloudCard is, let's go back over here. All right, I'm on the Approved tab. When I click this, and actually, I think I need to refresh. Okay, now that's a setting that you guys don't have access to, just FYI. But the default configuration is if I click download, it fires off a zip downloader, right? Zips up the photos for me. I can go check my downloads folder and test, there's my photos right there. I can unzip it and look inside, and I can see both those photos were created. Okay, now if you are using an external downloader like the CloudCard photo downloader, you are not going to want to have CloudCard configured in that way. So if you click download photos and a zip file gets generated, then your settings are wrong, and you need to just reach out to either your reseller or to us at supportonlinephotosubmission.com, and it'll take us just a couple of quick seconds to go in and fix your download settings so that you are downloading to an external application. All right, save that. All right, now I'm just going to go ahead and move, actually. So let's look at these photos, the ones that I just downloaded, right here and here, right? Now, on the downloaded view, you can actually push photos back to pending, okay? Now, be aware that if one of the things that happens when you manually force a photo back to pending is it will log that user out if they happen to be logged in. Okay, this has happened quite a few times where people are testing with their own account. So this is one of the reasons why it's nice to have a different accounts that you're testing with, so that if you do want to force a photo back to pending, you can do that. So if you take the action that I just showed, like if I was this is me logged in right here. This is not me. That is Brad Pitt. That's me. But I guess I kind of wish this was me. But anyhow, if I was to click this right here, it would log me out of the application, and then I'd have to log back in, which would just be annoying. Okay, so let's go ahead and reapprove these now and approve all the selected photos. I did change that setting. Let me make sure that I refreshed my settings and go back over to my Approve tab. Now I hit download, and you'll notice no zip file was generated. Okay, and when I come over here to look at these particular photos, if I click on them, I'll see they're actually marked as ready for download, as opposed to any one of these other photos, which is marked as downloaded, already downloaded. And that differentiation is very important, because that's what CloudCard, the CloudCard photo downloader, is looking for by default. That's what it's looking for. Okay, it's looking for the status of ready for download. It's going to pull that photo down, and then it's going to change it to downloaded, and that's how it tells the difference between photos that are ready to be downloaded and photos that have already been downloaded. Okay, so so we've got our photos. They're sitting in here. They're ready to be downloaded. And let's go ahead and fire off the downloader. And we'll go ahead and talk through a few of the settings, but I'm going to go ahead and run the downloader real quick. So I run this, and remember, when I run this, all right, that it doesn't actually, let me move that to the trash, move this to trash, do a little cleanup here. Sorry about that. All right. It doesn't generate any output. The output, it goes to this downloader.log. Okay, so I scroll down, I can see that it downloaded 2 photos. And if I look over here, I see those photos are now showing up in this downloaded photos. Now, you notice that earlier I downloaded photos, but they were the same 2 photos. So if a person with the same ID number, if their photo already exists in here, it's going to get overwritten, just FYI. Okay, if you want to keep those for posterity or whatever, you'll need to move them out through some sort of other process. Okay. Now let's go back and check to see what happened in CloudCard when I fired that off. So those 2 photos, if I click on that, I can now see that that photo is downloaded, right? So TDU 101 and CIA 5348 are now downloaded. Okay, so that's great. I'm going to show you the first thing. We're going to talk about the statuses of the photos that we downloaded, and I'll show you a little trick that will help you with doing this configuration. Okay, so like I said earlier, some people want to immediately download approved photos. Other people want to wait until the downloaded photos button is clicked, and then they want to download the ready for download photos. So I'm going to show you how to set that up, and while I'm doing that, I'm actually going to show you how you don't to keep from having to constantly reset these photos. But let's go ahead and move these back to pending. Let's see, move that one back to pending, and move that one back to pending, and let's go ahead and reapprove those photos. Okay, and now they're approved. Okay, so let's say that I want to, let me go ahead and then I have to re-download them. Okay, let's take a look at a couple of settings. Whoops, here we go. All right, so I'm first going to, here we go. Fetch statuses and put statuses. Okay, so the fetch status is the status that is going to trigger the downloader to fetch that photo or to download that photo. Okay, and notice it says fetch statuses. Okay, so you can actually specify multiple statuses separated with commas. Okay, and I'll describe in a minute why in a situation where that might actually be important. Okay, and then put statuses. Okay, when I'm done downloading a photo, I want to put it back in a specific status. What status is that? Okay, it could be, any of these statuses are valid. Okay, so most likely the default is what you're going to want to put it back in the status of downloaded, and that's exactly what we're seeing. It's picking up ready for download photos, and it's putting them back as downloaded. However, let's go ahead and let's say, for instance, we want to download approved photos. Okay, maybe we don't want anybody to have to click that button. Okay, so let's go over here to our application.properties, and that's where all the business is going to happen today. It's going to happen in this application.properties. All right, so downloader.fetch status. Let me close that, close that. All right, so let's say we want approved. Okay. And we're going to save this. And I'm going to go ahead and now every time you make changes to the application.properties file, you are going to need to stop and restart the downloader. So run it again, and it is handy to check the log. All right, and make sure you see you can see these changes. So before, the fetch status was ready for download. This time when I started up, the fetch status is approved. Now, it didn't download any photos, okay? Remember, I had a couple of photos in there that were ready to download, but that's the problem, actually. They were marked as ready to download. So this photo, it's still ready to download, okay? And that's a bit of a problem with setting my fetch status as approved. If the photos get in here to approved and then somebody clicks this download photos button, then they'll move over to ready for download, or they'll maybe even move over to downloaded. And then they're lost. They're over here on this tab marked as ready for download. This is one of the reasons why we allow you to specify multiple fetch statuses. Okay, just in case that happens, let's go in here and let's specify this. All right, so approved and so any photos that are approved or ready for download, we want to fetch those. All right, let me save that. I'm going to go ahead and cancel this, and I will run it again. All right, let's go check my log. And first, there it is. Check my log file. Scroll down. All right, you can see my fetch statuses are approved and ready for download, and that time I completed downloading 2 photos. Okay. Of course, it's going to be the same 2 photos, so it's just overriding those. So let's go ahead and take a look, make sure that that did what we thought it was going to do. Okay, I click on here, it's showing it's downloaded. All right, that's great. Now I need to go ahead and go through the little dance again. Push that one to pending, push that one to pending, go back over to pending, approve the selected photos. Okay, and now those are going to get downloaded when the downloader runs again in 10 minutes. Okay. Let me show you a trick. Now you got to make sure that you undo this when you're done. But one of the things you can do is you can configure the put status. Okay, so go over here. Stop the downloader. All right. So the put status, and I want to set my put status. Now this sounds silly, and to be really honest, it is kind of a silly setup. I want to set my put status to also be approved. Okay, so I'm going to download the photos, if they're approved or ready for download, and I'm going to put them back as approved, or I can put them back as ready for download. It doesn't really matter because either one of those will get picked up based on this particular setup. Okay. So and in fact, I'm actually going to move to ready for download and ready for download, just to keep things simple. All right, so I'm downloading photos that are ready for download and I'm putting them back as ready for download. So I'm just not going to make a change. That allows me to not have to just while I'm doing my testing and my configuration to keep resetting those photos. Okay, so let me save that. All right, I'm going to go get my photos back where they're supposed to be. I'm going to download them. All right, there they are, ready for download. Okay, and I will run my downloader. All right, and it's probably already run at this point. I can click, oh, not quite. All right, well, let's go check to see how my downloader is going. All right, it says it's downloaded 2. Oh, yes, that's right. Yep. It's already downloaded them, and they're still ready for download. Exactly what I expected. See? These are still ready for download, even though they've already been downloaded. And I can come check the summary file, and I can see that at 1549, and it is, in fact, 1549, I attempted to download 2 photos. Okay? All right, that's great. Now let's look at some of the other things that'll allow you to save a little time during your configuration. Okay? All right, let's look at some of these, and now we can kind of move in more of a natural progression through here. Okay? We are going to first look at the CloudCard API URL. There's almost no chance you'll need to change that. This is more for development purposes. We have our API, and we also have the test API. So we have different instances, but there's not really a reason why you would need to change to point at the test API. Most likely you'll never need to change this setting. Okay? But that's what it's there for. Okay, the access token, hey, that was the first thing we ever set up. We set it up in the quick start video. That's pretty straightforward. If you have any questions about that, go back and watch the quick start video. Okay? All right, the downloader storage service. Okay? This is, there are 2 allowed options here, the file storage service and simple database storage service. The file storage service is is the default, and that's what we've been seeing, where we have photos that are being stored on the file system. The simple database storage service will take those JPEGs and will store them in blobs in a relational database. Whoops, sorry about that. I'm getting texts. Apologize. So this will take the photos. It'll store them in blobs in the database. So we're not going to go into a demonstration of that right now, but if you do need your photos stored as blobs in a database, we have some schools that are using that to directly integrate with Transact. Then that's how you would do that. All right, download or repeat. Okay, default is true. So let's go look at our log. I don't think we're actually. Oh, we are still running. Okay, so if we look at the log. We can see that the default is set to 10 minutes, okay? And so every 10 minutes, it's going to run through this process. Now, it's not going to spit out all of this again. It's just going to say, just show that, hey, I'm downloading photos, and you'll see another copy of this in 10 minutes, okay? But of course, this will be different depending on what photos were available. So, with that said, though. If I set download or repeat to false, okay, and in fact, let me go ahead and demonstrate that real quick. All right, we're going to go over here to application.properties. Download or repeat gets false. Save that. All right, close out of that. I'm going to rerun this, and you'll notice the application's going to run, and boom, you see, I didn't have to stop it, and I'm already. It stopped itself. So let's go check our log. Downloader.log. You scroll down. Okay. And we can see right here, download or repeat is set to false, exiting the application now, and then you just see some other, just housekeeping information in the log. So why do we have that? There are some tools, Seaboard, the CS Gold batch queue tool is a great example of a tool that wants to handle the scheduling on its own. And so for tools like that, we allow the downloader to run just a single time and then immediately exit. That way it can be scheduled by an external scheduler. You could also use any sort of set up a cron job to run it, or Windows Task Scheduler, etc., etc. So that's what that's for. And let's go back to our settings. All right, downloader delay in milliseconds. Okay, the default is 600,000 milliseconds. Okay, which is 10 minutes. I always have to think through that. The minimum is 60,000 milliseconds, which would be 1 minute. So you can make that run more quickly if you like, So all you got to do, and this is actually a relatively common setting for people to change based on their particular preferences. So you just come in here, false. All right, we can set this to say 120,000 milliseconds. So that's going to run every 2 minutes now. We'll go, actually, let's go down to the minimum so we can see it run more often. So, set that, save it, boom. Oh, and of course we need to turn, remove this, so it will actually continue to download. Okay, I'm going to run that. Go check my log file. Make sure I'm seeing the right settings. Okay, downloader delay is 1 minute. Okay, it downloaded 2 photos, and we'll talk for a couple, over the next one, and then we'll come back and check, and we should see that it's fired off again. All right, so let's go back to our settings. Fetch status we already talked about. Put status we already talked about. Downloader minimum photo ID length. Okay, this is used in specific situations where the photo needs to, the photo ID that's stored needs to be a fixed length. So the default is 0, so it has to be at least 0, which of course it's going to, it has to be at least 1 digit to even be a valid file name. But this works whether you're putting it in a database or you're storing it as a file in the file system, and it allows you to basically left pad the student ID number with zeros, okay, which is a relatively common use case. This is another example of where of what we do with Transact. So let's go back and check now that we've talked through that. Check our downloader, and we'll see. Okay, so you see it downloaded 2 photos at 15:55, and then it downloaded the same 2 photos, because remember we're not marking them as downloaded anymore, at 15:56, and it'll just continue to download those same 2 photos over and over again, and we should see both of those in our log here, okay, in our summary log, and we do. All right. So I think that's probably enough for the first part of this video. I think I'm going to do the different storage services and some of the resolvers and some of these other things in a follow-on video. I think we've gotten to be long enough at this point, so I'll go ahead and create the next part, and we'll kind of just break this up into 2 parts. So if you've got questions about how to set up the storage services, just check out the next video.